we will first take up the definition of human resource management. Truss and Grattan have given the definition. Strategic human resource management is the linking of human resource management with strategic goals and objectives in order to improve business performance and develop organization cultures that fosters innovation and flexibility. So that is strategic human resource management. Now, as we have discussed that it is a combination of two terms, one is strategy and the other one is human resource management. Now, what is human resource management that we have discussed, and we all know that what is the meaning of human resource management. Now, we will discuss about strategy. Now, strategy again, it's a very common term. You have been studying this term since your say graduation days also, and in first semester also. In various subjects you might have come across with this term called as strategy. We often say that the following so and so company is having such strategy, and because of that strategy the company is number one in the world or number one in the country. So strategy is nothing but way to do a particular thing. That is the simple, in simple, we can say meaning of strategy. How we do a particular thing. A company has set up a strategy, set up a target that this year we want this much of profit. Now, how to achieve that target? Particular strategy is made by a company. That means they are putting up certain ways or planning certain ways that with by following those ways we will be able to achieve the target set by the company. So that is called as strategy. Now earlier what used to happen, strategy making was not the job of human resource management. It was considered that human resource management department is to control the human resources which are existing in the organization. They need to plan for their recruitment, they need to plan for their selection, they need to plan for their training, they need to plan for their remuneration, they need to plan for their welfare facilities, they need to prepare retention strategies. So all these things used to be the job of a human resource manager or human resource department. But later on, it was realized that the human resource management should have also a say in strategy making, and that is when the new discipline, which is called as strategic human resource management, came into existence. Earlier, it was thought that strategy making is the job of, say, finance people or operations people or marketing people, because marketing is directly related to sales, directly related to profits. Finance is directly related to capital or money, and operations as they are making production or doing production. So these three departments were considered as that these three very important department should prepare the strategy for the organization, that what should be the profit for the next year or for this particular year, how we should be achieving that profit. All such type of strategies used to be made by these three departments. And human resource department's job was to implement those strategies, to motivate the people to achieve the target. So that was earlier. But later on, when strategic human resource management came into existence, it was realized that when strategies for the organization are made at that particular time, one representative, at least one representative, should be included from the human resource department also. So that is strategic human resource management. Now, what is the importance of strategic management, functions of strategic management, that we are going to discuss now. So it is a linkage between strategy and human resource management. When human resource management department is involved in making strategy of the organization, then we can say it can be called as strategic human resource management. Now, benefits of SHRM or strategic human resource management, as we have already discussed that it is a updated version of human resource management. It is not that strategic management is completely different from human resource management. One function has been added to the old discipline of human resource management, and that is strategy making for the organization. Rest everything is there. Whatever was being practiced by human resource management, they will be practicing those things, those those functions they will be carrying out. But only difference is that one more function has been added to the existing discipline of human resource management, and that function is policy making. Now, benefits of HRM, benefits of strategic human resource management. First one, identifying and analyzing external opportunities and threats that may be crucial to companies' success. Sorry. So, identifying and analyzing external opportunities and threats that may be crucial to companies' success. When policies are to be made, when strategies are to be made, at that particular table, the representatives of human resource management can help the other department heads who are there in the policy making meeting with identifying and analyzing external opportunities and threats. What are the external opportunities available? Now here, what they are supposed to do is, here again, their function will remain same, that how many people are required, what are the external conditions available, whether the competent labor force is available in the uh, market or not, is the existing situation in the organization. If we want to increase the target, how many more people will be required, how these people will be recruited, whether competent and good people can be easily recruited or not. So all these things can be discussed at the time of policy or strategy making, if the representatives of human resource management are present at the time of strategy. Next one, provides clear business strategy and vision for the future. Now, operation people, finance people, or marketing people, depending upon sales, depending upon production, depending upon the existing financial situation of the organization, they will be setting the target. But it is the human resource department representative who can provide clear vision of the future, that okay, if we increase the target, that means we will have to recruit these many people, we will be recruiting these many people in this department at this particular position, then only we will be able to achieve the target. It will not happen without involving more people in the organization. Next one, to supply competitive intelligence that may be useful for strategic planning processes. Competitive intelligence. Now, competitive intelligence means that what our competitors are doing, how many people are there in their organization, what their strategies are, what is their long-term strategy or short-term strategy or mid-term strategy, how they are planning to involve more people in their organization, or what they are doing for their expansion. So all this type of competitive intelligence can be supplied by the human resource department. Next one, to recruit, retain, and motivate people. So that we have already discussed. It is the one of the very important function of human resource management. So it will continue to be there. Next one, to develop and retain highly competent people. So not only to retain people in the organization, in strategic human resource management, it is very clear that everyone in the organization who has been recruited by the organization should not be retained. Who are to be retained? Only highly competent people are to be retained by the organization. Those who are good performers, only those people are to be retained. Others who are not so good in performing their job, even after giving number of trainings to them, those people should be removed from the organization. Next one, to ensure people development issues are addressed systematically. Development issues. So again, all these things, how they are interrelated, now we will be discussing. Now, when we talk about that, one of the benefit of strategic human resource management, that it helps in retaining highly competent people. That means those people who are star performers of the organization, they should be always retained by the organization so that they can make the organization more and more profitable, because they are star performer, good performer, excellent performers. Now, these people will be able to be retained if they feel that they are having enough growth opportunities for them in the organization. So, what the next point says is to ensure that people development issues are addressed systematically. If these star performers, they feel that they do not have enough opportunity in the organization for their development, then even if the organization increases their salary, even if more incentives are given to these people, the organization will not be able to retain these people. Why? Because of development issues. They feel that they do not have enough growth opportunity, enough developmental opportunities available in the organization. So one of the benefit again of strategic human resource management is that it always addresses the issues related to development, issues related to growth opportunities available in the organization. It will see to it that enough growth opportunities is being provided to the employees of the organization so that they should be retained in the organization. Next one, to meet the expectations of customers effectively. Now here, to meet the expectations of customers effectively, it talks about not only the quality of the product, but also talks about after sale services. Nowadays, it is not that your product is quality in nature and you are selling quality product. Once the product is sold, once the company has received the money for that particular product, the job is over for the employees. It is not such. It is not so nowadays. Nowadays, all the companies are involving or spending enough funds or enough time or enough planning for planning after sale services also, because it is after sale service which will be able to retain the customers, as well as which will be able to increase the customer base for the organization. Next one, to ensure high productivity. Now when high productivity will be there, when the organization will be having star performers or good experienced people who are working for the organization. Now, when these people will be producing more, or when their productivity will be more, when they will be happy, when they will be satisfied with the existing facilities of the organization. So when they feel when the employees are happy, definitely the productivity will increase. Next one, to ensure business surplus through competency. Now, to ensure business surplus through competence. Competency means skills and abilities. Now, when people are to be hired or recruited in the organization, they are to be recruited scientifically in the organization. That means enough care should be taken by the human resource management that only the right candidate is selected for the job. It should not happen that not that enough care was not taken, and only on the basis of the communication skills of the candidate or the academic qualification of the candidate was selected. The selection process should such that it should refine the candidate, that only the best candidate should be selected for the job. If best candidate is selected for the job, more chances are there that he will be a good performer for the organization. He will in future become a star performer for the organization. But if not enough care is taken, now we cannot expect that a person who speaks English very well, he will always be able to perform well. But at the time of selection, other thing apart from English, apart from academic qualification, should also be taken care. Whether the person is having required skills of the job or not, whether the person is having good potential to become a good performer, a good job performer or not. So all such things should be taken care of at the time of selection, at the time of hiring the person for the organization. Not only one or two aspects, but all the aspects of selection should be taken into consideration. Now, one of the aspects for selection is that academically the person should be sound. Okay. Second is that English wise the person should be fluent. Third, the person should have good potential in him or her. The person should have good skills, or his skills should match with the skills required for the job. So all such parameters should be matched when the person is hired for the organization. It should not be based on, say, first impression. First impression means personality wise the candidate was very good and he had a very good impression in the minds of the interviewer, and because of that good impression the interviewer decided that he should be selected for the organization. So that should not be the basis of selection. So all the parameters which have been set for selection should be met by the candidate. Only then the candidate should be selected. Now, you might be knowing that there are various organizations which are having not only one round of interview or 3 rounds of interview or 5 rounds of interview. There are many organizations which are having 8 rounds of interview or 10 rounds of interview. Now, why these organizations are having these many rounds of interview? Because they want only the best should join their company. Now, this particular thing ensures business surplus through competency. Now, these people, these talented people, these most suitable people for the job, if selected by the organization, definitely will make the organization more and more profitable. So instead of employing 10 people in the organization, if the organization is able to employ say 6 or 7 very competent people in the organization, then also they will make the organization more profitable, or they will be more productive than 10, 12 or 15 people. So that is to ensure business surplus through competency. Next one, nature of strategic human resource management. What is the nature of strategic human resource management? Now, this is very much similar to human resource management. Only thing is that everywhere it is, we can say, a step forward than human resource management. Now, nature of strategic human resource management. HRM is fully integrated with strategy and the strategic needs of the firm. Now, it is joined with, it is fully integrated, it is involved fully with the human resource management, is fully involved with strategy and strategic needs of the firm. Now, the firm wants to earn more profit, but the firm doesn't want to employ more people in the organization. They want the existing staff to be more productive. Now, for that, a strategy can be made that the existing staff can be deputed for more advanced type of training. So if they undergo the advanced training, then definitely their productivity can increase. So instead of always employing more people in the organization, suggestion can be given by the human resource management that if more advanced type of training can be offered to the existing workforce, their productivity can be increased. So this will happen if the representatives of human resource management are present at the time of strategy making. Next one, human resource policies cohere both across policy areas and across hierarchies. So it exists, human resource policies coexist both in across policies, policy areas and across hierarchies. It is not at, we can say that, not only at the top level where the policies are to be say prepared or made, but when it comes to implementation of these policies also, the human resource management should be involved totally. So not only at the top level, it should be involved in the middle level, it should be involved in the lower level also. Next one, human resource architecture of the firm results in its above average financial performance. So very simple, Human resource management is what? It is managing the human resource who is working in the organization. If that human resource, if the employees are managed properly, if the employees are provided with all the facilities which they are expecting, then their performance will be above average. Whatever has been thought by the company at the start of the year, the performance will exceed that benchmark. Why? Because of the architecture of human resource. Architecture of human resource means that the facilities or the environment, working environment in the organization should be such that people enjoy working. And we have many times discussed during our previous lectures that if people enjoy their work, their productivity will definitely increase. And if their productivity increases, automatically it will lead to profitability for the organization. Next one, human resource practices are adjusted, accepted, and used by line managers and employees as part of their everyday work. Now, very important thing is added here, and that is human resource practices are adjusted. Adjusted means they are, it should not be very rigid. The HR practices should not be rigid type of practices. It should be flexible type of policies or practices. Now what is mentioned is that HR practices are adjusted according to the existing demand of the organization or existing business environment in the organization. So a policy was made that this year these type of incentives will be given to the employees. That is a policy which is made by the highest officials of the organization. Now this policy has been circulated also. When we talk about adjustment, here what we are discussing is adjustment. Policies can be adjusted according to the demand of the business environment. Now, if there is urgency in the organization, they have to urgently complete an order and deliver it. If they complete it within time, more profits can be earned by the organization. That is the requirement of the or that is the target of the organization, that within earlier, that the period given for target completion or work completion was 3 months, but the organization to whom this consignment is to be supplied, the finished product of this organization is to be supplied, they are expecting early delivery from this organization, and they have promised, if you make early delivery, we will pay you more money. So earlier, the policies which were shared with the employees, that this type of incentives can be given to you if you achieve the target. Now these policies can be adjusted. So if they are flexible, they can be adjusted according to the need of the business. Now, what is the need of the organization? That everyone should improve their efficiency, because within a period of say 2 months, we need to complete the work which we had targeted earlier for completion within a period of 3 months. सो 3 महीने का काम 2 महीने में ही करना है, तो उसके लिए policies can be adjusted, incentives can be adjusted, benefits can be adjusted. So that is the human resource practices are adjusted, accepted, and used by line managers and employees as a part of their everyday work. Now, functions of strategic human resource management. Now, again, most of the functions we have already discussed. Some of the new functions we will be discussing, but these functions also are very much similar to the existing functions of human resource management. Now, functions of strategic human resource management: high performance HRM practices. Now, various practices we had discussed, that these are the practices when we were discussing HR practices, that open door policies should be implemented in the organization. Then there should be a 360-degree performance appraisal, or delight the employee with unexpected. So all these practices, 8 to 10 practices we had discussed when we were discussing the HR practices or common HR practices which are being followed by most of the multinational or large scale companies that we had discussed. Now, same is here also. High performance HR practices. HR practices should be such which can result in high performance. What are those policies that we had discussed? Are those policies, 8 to 10 policies which we had discussed, or practices which we had discussed. Such type of practices should be implemented in the organization so that it can result in high performance. Now, suppose just now we had talked about flexible policies. Now, for whom the policies are made? For the human resource, for employees, the policies or practices are made. So practices, HR practices should be such which are always taking care of benefits of the employees. That if suppose if one employee is having a work related problem, then the organization should have such mechanism that he should be able to know, or he should be aware of, that if he is having any work related problem, who is the authority whom he can contact for quick resolving of that particular work related problem. If that authority is unable to resolve that problem, who is the next authority, or who is the topmost authority? So such type of high performance HR practices should be implemented in the organization, and that is one of the function of strategic human resource management. Now, next one is organization re-engineering. So we all know what is re-engineering. It is engineering, and before that one two alphabets are there, RE, re-engineering. Re-engineering means thinking again about the structure of the organization, whether any changes for the benefit of the organization can be made in the existing structure of the organization or not. So that is called as business organization re-engineering. Now, earlier, most of the organization were called as hierarchical organization. It was expected that each and every employee should follow the hierarchy in the organization. Hierarchy in the organization means that a worker is supposed to follow the instruction, or he is supposed to directly report to the supervisor. Supervisor is report to the executive, executive to junior manager, junior manager to senior manager. So this type of hierarchy was there in the organization. It was not expected from a worker that he can directly go and meet the executive, because he is supposed to report to the supervisor. So his reporting authority is supervisor. He is not supposed to meet, in case of any problem, directly to the executive. Now, for example, supervisor is having a problem. He is supposed to meet the executive. He cannot directly meet the junior manager in the organization or deputy manager in the organization. So that used to happen in hierarchical organization. Still, there are companies which are having hierarchical organization, but most of the companies are now shifting to another type of organization, which are called as flat organizations. In flat organization, the hierarchy is very less. बहुत कम रिपोर्टिंग राउंड्स होते हैं. पहले क्या होता था कि one round, then second reporting round, third reporting round, fourth reporting stage. So this used to happen earlier. Now most of the organizations are flat organization where the hierarchy is very less. Employee is there, or workers are there, then supervisors are there, then executives are there, then managers are there, and the top management is there. 3-4 layers or 4-5 layers of hierarchy in the organization. So these organizations are called as flat organizations. And when we talk about organizational re-engineering, we are talking about that whether the existing hierarchical structure of the organization or existing policy of the organization can be rethinked, can be redone, can be redrawn. So all these things are involved in organizational re-engineering. Now, why we are talking about organizational re-engineering? It is only for the profit of the organization. If by changing the organizational structure, if the organization can be made more profitable, then the organization should not hesitate in changing the structure of the organization. So that is in terms of organizational re-engineering. Next one is transformational leadership. Transformation of a person. So a leadership, it's a leadership type where people are transformed. So it is different from dictatorship type of leadership or authoritative leadership. It is different from democratic type of leadership. It is different from custodial type of leadership. So all these leadership in autocratic, what used to happen, that manager used to believe that as I'm sitting on the position of manager, I know everything. I know everything, and no worker or no supervisor or no subordinate can suggest me anything. No suggestion is invited. Only they are supposed to obey my orders. I know everything. I'll be preparing the strategy. I'll be circulating the strategy to them. What they are supposed to do is they need to implement that strategy as it is, as per my orders. That used to happen in autocratic style of leadership. In democratic type of leadership, which is very popular, what happens in democratic type of leadership, that suggestions can be invited, or suggestions are invited from each and every one, and then decision is taken by the top official of the organization. That is the condition of democratic type of leadership. When we talk about transformational leadership, it is transforming a person from one phase to another phase. Now, transforming a average performer to a good performer, from a good performer to a better performer, from a better performer to a star performer, that are the effects of transformational leadership, where people are transformed. When we talk about the transformational leadership, leader should be such that he should be able to transform the average performers into good performers into star performers or best performers. So what he is doing is he is transforming them completely. Now, how he can transform them? When he has good relations with the employees. Suppose a person is not performing well on the job. Now, option available to the manager is what? That he can send a show cause notice to the person, that it has been observed that you are not performing well. You are directed to improve your performance within these days, or otherwise strict action will be taken. Such type of show cause notice can be sent to the person. When 3 notices are sent and still the person is not improving the performance, the option available to the organization is that remove that person and hire new person. That is legally the option available to the organization. Now, what happens in transformational leadership? Instead of sending show cause notice to the person who is not performing well, the manager calls that person in his cabin. He makes that person comfortable. He makes that person very comfortable, and he starts talking to the person in a very, say, polite manner, or in a very friendly type of manner. He asks the reason why he is unable to improve the performance, whether the problem is related to, say, the working conditions, or he needs more training, or is there any problem at his family end. So all this information he tries to get. Why he is trying to get the information? Because he wants to make that person from an average performer to a good performer. And while talking to the person, to the worker, the manager comes to know that yes, there are some family issues, and because of those issues he is unable to concentrate on the work. As he is unable to concentrate, his production is average. Now, family issues can be that he is having 2 children. They are going to school, and he need to first take the children to the school, drop them to the school. Then after the shift, he need to again uh, uh, get the children from the school and take them to the home. And because of that, as the distance is far, he is traveling too much. He feels that he become exhaustive, or he becomes exhaustive when he comes to the job. तो उसका जितना भी एनर्जी है, his energy is lost, most of his energy is lost in traveling only. Now, if some arrangement can be done by the company for pickup and drop of the children of this particular employee, what the employee will feel? That if the company is taking so much care of my family members, then it is my responsibility that I should make the company profitable. Such small initiative, if can be taken by the organization, definitely people can make the organization profitable, and that is called as transformational leadership. Now what the manager has done, he has transformed a average performer to a good performer by solving his personal problem, or if suppose work related problem is there. Now that particular gentleman who is working on a machine, he's not uh, trained well to work on the machine, but he's afraid to share this information with the higher authority. He feels that if he share this information, that he needs more training, the company will remove him. And as he is not sharing openly his problem, he is still underperformer, or he is still a average performer. When the manager makes him comfortable, then the manager comes to know that this particular gentleman needs 2 3 4 5 days more training, and then more that type of training can be arranged for this person. Once he comes back from that second training or revised type of training, then automatically his performance becomes better. So this is the meaning of transformational leadership. Next one, workplace learning. Now, workplace learning means learning opportunity should be provided in the organization. Everyone who wants to learn more should be given enough opportunity by the organization. Now, many organizations are having library in their organizations. For what? For learning more. Now those libraries consist of books related to that particular industry and other general books also. If anyone wants to learn more, he can visit the library and he can learn. Not only visiting the library, but also many organizations are now deputing their people who want to learn more to higher educational institute to do some advanced courses in a particular field. Now a production manager, he wants to production course which is being course which is being offered. Now this manager can be deputed by the organization, say can be adjusted by the organization, can be borne by, called as workplace learning. Now again, all these HR practices or will lead to what? Will lead to profitability for the organization. Now if a person has been deputed by the organization for further studies, improve his skills, if he is deputed to a higher education institute and is bearing the fees of that particular institute, whether it is 1 lakh, 10 lakh, whatever, the organization is bearing the fees. After returning, what the person will feel, that if the organization is spending so much on my development, it is my moral responsibility that I should make the organization more profitable. Now, last one, assessing HR effectiveness. That is again very important. Assessing of HR effectiveness. Now, HR effectiveness means whatever practices which are being implemented in the organization with the help of HR department, whether these practices are result in positivity or not. Because of these new HR practices, whether the organization is making more profit, activity quality wise and quantity wise is increasing or not. If not, then there are, then these practices are to be redone or remade, or it should be revised or revamped. That something is missing in the existing practices, which should be added to the existing practices, so that the employees can be made more productive. So that is called as assessing of HR practices. So we will stop here, as we are nearing to the time of our lecture. So we will stop here. Tomorrow we will start with the role of HR manager. We will talk about administrative role. We will talk about the operation role also, which most of the thing which we have already covered under the functions of the operative functions and the HR person, that we have already covered. So tomorrow we will be talking about role of HR manager. We will also be talking about the global competitive and strategic HR. We will also try to complete tomorrow first chapter. If we complete, we will try to complete the first chapter, so that from next lecture we can start with the chapter number 2. So thank you for joining today's session. Tomorrow again we will be meeting at the same time, that is 6 a.m. in the morning. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.